My mom told me I was hands down the ugliest baby that was ever born. And the story actually started with when I came out, she was very disappointed because she wanted a boy. And I was not a boy, obviously. I was a girl. And the first question she asked the doctor, allegedly, was, "Can you put that back? That's not what I want." And that is the operative word. That's what she called me when she told her story. And then she said she took a good look at me. And she'd say this laughing. And then she took a good look at me and said, "You were the ugliest baby I'd ever seen." And that might be a funny story if she changed it and was like, "But you blossomed into this beautiful girl." But that part of the story never came. I never heard that part. She never said that. It stopped at, "You were and are the ugliest baby I've ever seen." And then my dad, he he didn't want kids. He hates kids. He hates people in general. In particular, he hates females. My dad has no respect for women. He can't stand women. They are the dumbest, most worthless humans on the planet. And he was never, I always kind of had respect for my dad in that he was just unapologetically himself. And he never apologized for any of his thoughts or thought they were wrong. He just went with it. And fortunately, I was intuitive enough as a kid to know my parents were a little off and they probably shouldn't be saying the things that they were saying to me. And I would remind myself, you've got to remember, like, you're not that bad. You can't help that you're a female. You can't help that you were born the ugliest baby in the universe. But I, no doubt, it created some insecurities. And I think more than anything, it created some fears. My dad always told me, "Well, you're a girl, so you can't do anything. Like, you will never amount to anything. You are worthless from the get-go." And he'd do this thing from, I just remember it because I was a little kid when he did it. If you aren't watching this podcast on YouTube, what I'm doing is putting my two hang loose signs, one on each hand, and put your thumbs together with your pinkies extended out, a shaka sign on each hand, thumbs together, pinkies out. And he'd always say, "Nick, if your ass gets wider than this, no man will ever want you." And I think that created that, along with the fact that my mom had reminded me daily how ugly I was, a little bit of a fear of being naked. I don't know. I've just never been comfortable with naked. I was absolutely terrified of being naked. I hated women's locker rooms when I got to be of school age where you had PE and had to change. I hated changing in a locker room. I just never was comfortable being naked or half naked in my underwear, whatever the case may be. That was a huge fear of mine. And then because my dad had said girls, women can't do anything, and I'd wanted to play hockey really bad when I was a kid. Absolutely not. You're a girl. Girls can't play hockey. You'll suck at it. You suck at everything because you're a girl. That caused me to go the rebellious route of, "Oh, you're telling me I can't do it because I'm a girl. Therefore, I will do it." And some of my rebelling came out when I started hanging out with skateboarders. That was a big part of my upbringing where I just wanted to get back at my dad. I wanted to hang out with skateboarders because I knew, being a tennis family, that was the ultimate FU to my dad. And it worked. That did not go over well when I started hanging out and got a skateboarder boyfriend. But as that little girl in me who was told she was the ugliest baby ever, and my parents instilling I'd never amount to anything, nor would I ever be able to do anything, there's this rebellion where I want to do everything that they told me I couldn't do. And I've continued to do that. So when I turned 50 just this past August, I took my biggest fear of being naked and my other biggest fear, which was also an FU because I had started skateboarding, and I combined those two things together as kind of a redemption for my childhood. I'm going to skateboard naked for my 50th birthday. I'm Nikki Lynn Chase, and this is my podcast, Adult Chicken. It's about navigating life's unexpected. These are my stories. This is my adventure of being a single mom to two special needs kids. That rebellion is interesting because my mom is dead. It's not like she ever cared or paid attention anyway. And my dad, I don't think he honestly knows my children's names. I'd be probably lucky if he knew my name, not because of dementia, because he literally does not know, care, and he's not the brightest guy. He's actually quite dumb and has always been. But there's still this, I want to stick it to my parents, even though, I had always, I think, for most of my life, and I don't think I'm unique in seeking my parents' approval. But they were never parents that were going to approve. But that didn't stop me. It still doesn't stop me. My mom is dead. I still want to, a lot of things I do, I'm like, F you, Mom. Thinking she didn't care when she was alive. She certainly doesn't have an opinion now that she's dead. But then my father, I don't even know that he knows my children's names. He certainly doesn't like them. For one, they're kids. For two, they're special needs kids. I mean, they hit every checkbox of I want nothing to do with that for my dad. And he's not a big fan, nor has he ever been, of me. But there's still this part of me that wants to rebel. And when I turned 50, or when I was getting ready to turn 50, I really did kind of have this major reflection on my whole entire life and thought, what could I do that will just be so gratifying? That really will allow me to redeem my entire childhood and everything that I sort of want to just get back for myself, more than anything for myself. I thought, you know what it is? I just want to do something. I want to face my fears. One, being naked. I've never been comfortable with that. In my 50 years of being a human, I've never been comfortable being naked. And the other one, skateboarding. And I thought, combine the two. Because I also have accountability issues. And I thought, if I announce to the universe, right here on Adult Chicken, that I'm going to skateboard naked, I am a girl of my word and I'm going to do it. And so I did just that. Months before I turned 50, I announced that I was going to skateboard naked for redemption, to face my fears, and also for accountability reasons. I knew that if I announced that and I was going to do it, I was going to have to learn how to skateboard, for one, and get halfway decent at it. And for two, I was going to have to get in the best shape of my life, which is exactly what I wanted to do by 50. So I've discussed this in a couple of episodes. I went out, I got myself a trainer for working out, and I got myself a skateboard instructor coach. And the mission was on. I set my goals and I announced it and gave myself about 6 months to really hone in on those two goals and get ready for my 50th birthday. And as you might assume, my parents never really celebrated my birthday. I know that's shocking because they loved me so much, but they never cared or celebrated. And I think through my kids, I've always overcompensated. I've always wanted them to have the birthdays I never had. And then there's that secret part of me, unlike most people who are like, oh, I don't want people to know it's my birthday. I don't want anybody celebrating or making a fuss. Very opposite from that. I'm always half hoping there's going to be a huge birthday party or someone's going to have planned a big surprise, something or other for me. And that's just never been the case. So I knew when I turned 50, if something extraordinary was going to happen, I was probably going to have to plan it myself. And I did just that. So that was going to be the day on my 50th birthday. I was going to skateboard naked and I was going to face my fears and I was going to redeem myself. And I was just going to celebrate having made it to 50 for one with parents like that. And a crazy life like I've lived. But no, I was really excited because I was on the path and had been hitting those goals. And August rolls around and it's time. I thought I was going to chicken out. I was scared, which sounds ridiculous, but I thought, no, you are going to go through with this. And the day of my birthday, the actual day I turned 50, I had recruited a really good friend of mine who's also a female and she skateboards. And I said, we're going to bring my kids. I've got a backyard bowl to skate in. And my kids, being my kids, don't think anything I do is weird or strange. So unlike typical normal kids, they'd be mortified if their 50-year-old mother was skateboarding naked. Mine didn't pay any attention. I did send them away when the clothes came off, But my friend filmed it. And I tell you what, at that point, I had learned to drop in. I could get around, and the whole goal was to do it naked and without falling, and pop out at the end of my run. And I did just that. And hands down, it was the most empowering thing I'd ever done to date. It was incredible. There I was, all the naysayers of the world, the two most prominent ones being my parents. You're not going to do that. Almost mortified, embarrassed, absolutely. I always embarrassed. I was the embarrassment of the family. But I did it. And it was the most empowering fucking thing I've ever done in my entire 50 years. And it was fabulous. And I returned to the gym. I had actually made a goal with my trainer. I said, I'm going to run a half marathon in November. And that was going to be my next plan because I really wanted to not just stop. I'm absolutely guilty of constantly, I'll hit a goal and then just be done with it. Oh, that's perfect. Get into the cookies and the candy and just I accomplished something and I'm done. So I had planned to run a half marathon in November. That was going to give me another goal, a higher goal and something to achieve in the upcoming months. And when I went back to skateboarding, the person teaching me thought I was not going to come back. And I said, "Oh no, I'm hooked. I can't get enough of this. And now I want a new goal. He said, "What are you going to do next?" He thought I was going to be done. He didn't think I would. He thought after skateboarding naked, that was it. That was all. And I said, "Absolutely not. I want more. I need to do this more." The feeling that gave me, the feeling of empowerment, the feeling of, holy shit, this is awesome. I need more of that. And that is what skateboarding is. It had, at that time, almost become an addiction. I was hooked. And he asked, we had the conversation, what comes next? And agreed that it would be a grind. I can't even believe at 50 I'm saying, oh, my next goal in life was to grind coping, which coping is the top part of a ramp or a bowl. And that was what we agreed upon. And then I deleted the goal of running a half marathon because I was going to have to put everything into grinding, coping. And that was kind of thrilling. Again, it was a big FU to my parents, but more importantly, it was so satisfying to me and so empowering. So onward to the next goal, I continued to work out and I continued to work towards my goal of getting better at skateboarding. In October, so my birthday was in August, in October, the very end of September, beginning of October, I got my first backside grind, is what it's called. And it was the most amazing feeling I'd ever had. Because here, I'm really defying the odds of all the naysayers telling me you can't skateboard. You can't learn to skateboard when you're in your very late 40s, early 50s. You're dumb. You are an idiot. I heard my parents. You were the ugliest, dumbest kid, worthless. You can't do any of this. Yeah, I could. And I was doing it. And it was amazing. When I got that grind, the feeling of that grind, I compare it to being in the top 3 events of my life. The first best event, the best feeling, the most indescribable feeling was having my first kid, Bootsy, who's now 20. The second most amazing thing that I ever did was had my second child, my son, Sandler. The third most amazing, indescribable event of my life was grinding coping. And you know what? Depending on how my kids are behaving, the order of those 3 things change. Sometimes on a specific day, specific hour, grinding, and then whatever kid is in less trouble, and then whatever kid is in the most trouble. That's the order of the 3 best feelings of my whole entire life. So it was time to go for the next goal in skateboarding, which was to hit that grind going the opposite direction, which is called front side. But I was warming up with backside. And it still is absolutely terrifying. Even though I'd gotten a backside grind. It's terrifying. And this is right before Thanksgiving. I was warming up. I got my backside grind and I got a perfect one. It was beautiful. And in the split second, or whatever is less than a split second, I did everything that the person who teaches me how to skateboard told me not to do. I surprised myself, for one, because I couldn't believe I just did it so perfectly. I scared the living shit out of myself, for two. I celebrated myself for having done such a great, perfect grind. And then I froze up. And that millisecond, again, I'm not good at measurements, especially in time, but I froze up in however many milliseconds that took. And I went down. And I went down really hard. In skateboarding, it's not a matter of if you're going to get hurt, it's a matter of when. My helmet was crooked. My glasses were dangling off my face. I looked like a yard sale. And I said, my wrist really hurts. And then I looked over at my wrist and I had snapped it. And I looked, and even just describing it makes me almost literally sick. It was hanging off my hand was more or less hanging. It was crooked. It was a disaster. And it hurt like I've never felt pain before in my entire life. And I went to the emergency room, and that was a whole other experience. That was wild. When I say you can parallel skateboarding with life, I mean, I'm paralleling my snapped wrist with labor, because I will everything that has to do with having kids, right? The elation, the highs of having kids, but also when I got to the emergency room, they reset my wrist. It had come out of the skin a little bit, so I had what's called a puncture wound. It's so awful, and it hurt. But when they reset it, they actually put me to sleep, and then I guess reset it at that time. And when I woke up, I have never in my life felt the pain I felt. I mean, it took what I remember of labor to a whole different level. I mean, it hurt so much worse. And I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. But as I sat there in so much pain, and they're organizing and telling me I've got to have surgery and all these doctors, and then they're trying to call in orthopedists, and you're going to have to see a hand surgeon the next day, and there was so much mayhem and so much surrounding it. In my head, I'm thinking, oh, I wonder how long I can't skateboard. And I couldn't believe, I think I was a little bit ashamed that was the thought process in my head. Here we are, it's right before Thanksgiving. I'm not thinking about how am I going to get through Thanksgiving. I'm thinking, I was just about to get that next trick. How am I going to go back to skateboarding? I wonder how long this is going to take. I wonder what's going to happen. Fortunately, it was my left wrist. But then it was Thanksgiving, and they put me in this. There were issues with insurance. There were issues with referrals. They went through the system situation with having, the healthcare system. And that was just a freaking nightmare. But they put me in this temporary sling. And then Thanksgiving came, and it was not my favorite Thanksgiving. It was very difficult to sort of wrap my head around. How am I going to do the holidays, pretend I'm excited and happy when I'm doing this all with one arm and no help? But Thanksgiving was tough, like the whole mental part of it, because I was worried. All my two outlets, working out, how was I going to work out? Obviously, I couldn't skateboard, but I was trying to think, can I work out? Can I do one arm and two leg type of things? What can I do? All that I had worked towards till August had just been shot to shit. And I thought, you have always said it's not a matter of if you're going to get hurt, it's when, and this is your win, and you're going to need to be grateful that it's your left arm, and you're going to come back strong. So somehow, some way, we make it through Thanksgiving. And I know that sounds really dramatic. It was just a broken wrist, but it was very telling of how dependent my kids are. It was just very exaggerated and very magnified. Like there was a spotlight on my life going, your kids can't do much without you, and you can't do much with this one arm. And, I had this splint that weighed like 9,847 pounds up to my armpit. We're trying to do, thank goodness I don't cook. And I had ordered pre-cooked Thanksgiving dinner for the three of us. A smart mom might have invested in paper plates, but I did not. Didn't even think about it. And I painfully watched my kids try to do a dish at a time. And it was just, I was losing my mind. And it was just, stay focused, just one foot in front of the other, get through this holiday. A very different holiday than most because of the little wrist incident. But we get to Friday. And I wake up Friday and, it sounds dramatic because it was just a broken wrist. However, having the urgency of the emergency room that I initially went to telling me you need to have surgery and it's going to be done by a hand surgeon, and then trying to advocate, trying to get insurance to go through on a holiday week was nothing short of being the most frustrating, aggravating, irritating process. And I just couldn't get anywhere. And I started to freak out because when I woke up the Friday after Thanksgiving, my fingers were, I'm not sure what they were supposed to look like, but I knew they were not supposed to be kind of a greenish purple color. And I thought, I think I'm going to get gangrene. I think my fingers are going to come off. Like, this does not look right and definitely did not feel right. So I reached out to my retired doctor, one of my favorite people. He's just awesome and had been awesome. And I thought, I better reach out to somebody that actually cares, because during a holiday week, you've got so many people in for crazy holiday emergencies that a broken wrist doesn't sound very important. But I was losing it. I was freaking out. It just didn't look right. I didn't want to lose my whole arm. And so I reached out to my retired doctor and I said, hey, what do you think? I sent a couple pictures of what was going on. And he had suggested get to this specific emergency room immediately. So Friday after Thanksgiving, I pack up the kids and off we go for another emergency room visit. All the while, I'm trying to make this seem like a fun adventure for my kids. We're at the third ER visit, and I'm just trying my best to make this an adventure. And it was an exciting ER. I mean, there was a lot going on, a lot of things that I'd never seen or heard. And fortunately, Bootsy, my daughter, loves emergency rooms. It's what she watches on her YouTube. She loves to watch emergency room situations. That's what she seeks out on Google, anything emergency room related. So she's thoroughly enjoying it. And Sandler, he's just kind of trying to gauge where my energy's at, if I'm about to lose it. And he's not real sure, but Bootsy's keeping him pretty well grounded. And then they had a whole new cafeteria to visit. They love hospital cafeterias. They think those are the neatest thing. They always have. And so it's time to see the ER's orthopedist. People kind of panicked when they first saw my arm at this ER, and they brought in a few people and immediately called in a specific orthopedist. And he came in and decided to reset it again. And I said, no, thank you. That was the most painful thing. In fact, it was more painful than labor. So can we not? Is there any way around it? He's like, no, I don't like the x-rays that I'm looking at. I don't like what they've done. I think I can do a better job, and I'm going to reset it again. So he brings in a nurse, a male nurse, to hold me down. And I am just pumped with pain medication. I mean, I have so much pain medication in me, I shouldn't have been able to feel anything. And that doctor reset it, and it was far more painful because he took his time resetting it. He wanted to do it right, he had said. He said he didn't like what they had done the first time. So this is exactly a week later. This is me being a lot more aware of what's going on, because I'm not in the shock of it just happening like I had been the first time it had been set or reset. And he was doing it again, and he took his time, and it took the male nurse to hold me down. The F-bombs that were flying out of my mouth, the things that I said, I can only imagine 5 towns away must have heard. It was so painful. And I hated this man. And a little salt to the wounds was after the fact, after he said it. He said, "You're not going to skateboard, are you?" In my mind, I'm thinking, yes, I am, because I'm going to get a short cast after this, because you just told me you said it well enough that I don't have to probably have surgery. And if that's the case, I'm getting a short cast really soon, and a short cast should work perfectly fine as a wrist guard. And I'm hearing myself think this. These are the thoughts in my head. This is the voice in my head. This is what it's thinking. And kind of as an FU, you just reset my wrist. And that was the most painful thing to date. That was more painful than the 2 times I gave birth to my 2 kids. It was more painful than the first time I had my wrist reset, this particular one. And you know what? I heard myself saying, this man's telling me I can't do something. Just like everybody else who doesn't. All the naysayers, my mom, my dad, all the people that told me I couldn't and can't skateboard at age 50, I thought, oh, I'm coming back, and I'm coming back stronger. And so I returned to working out with this ginormous splint on. I thought, you know what? You're going to be in a short cast sooner than later, and you're going to be skateboarding sooner than later. So you better at least start kind of training, cross training, do your workouts, get your skate legs kind of geared up. You can work everything out except for your wrist. It was sort of like the traumatic event happened, and I thought, this is like your Rocky moment. That was your downfall, and now it's time to come back, make a comeback. And that's exactly what I started trying to put my mindset into that. I thought you could either have the worst holiday season ever, or you can make this sort of your comeback time. So I did. I started working out, and then within about a week or 2, I was in a short cast. I picked out an adorable Christmas dinosaur cast with red and green and blue dinosaurs. Seemed very festive and holiday-ish. And I just kept thinking, I think I'm going to be skating sooner than I thought. The doctor who set my arm that second time did such a good job. He completely made it straight. And the hand surgeon said I didn't have to have hand surgery, which was great, or wrist surgery. And I was on my way to recovery. Got through Christmas. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to skateboard again. This short cast is going to make a great wrist guard. So I returned. I returned to my 2 favorite skate parks and was able to skate. It didn't bother me at all. The first thing I did was return to the place where I had the injury. And I needed to sort of just get over that initial PTSD and revisit it and be there. And then it was time to get redemption. There's something about skateboarding where you always return to the trick and the place of the trick, and you redo it kind of to show that trick up. Sort of like how I rebel against my parents to like as a fuck you and I'll show you, even though one is dead and the other one probably doesn't remember my name. Again, not because of dementia, but just because he's an asshole who didn't want kids to begin with. But kind of like that. Does the trick and the place care that you're there to return? No. Is it for yourself? 1,010%. So I returned. And I got my skate legs back. And then it was time to return to that grind, to return to that trick. And I felt confident. I felt like I could get that grind. I had skated enough. I'd gotten my skate legs back and I was ready. And I did just that. I got my redemption grind. It was less than 3 months after I severely broke my wrist. And I went and I just felt it. I didn't feel the fear. Of course, it's scary no matter what, but I didn't feel the fear anything like what I had felt even the first time I got it before I knew what it felt like. And the one that I broke my wrist on, I knew what it felt like, and I knew what it felt like if you don't do it quite right. It was weeks and weeks of pain and misery, but I got it. I got my redemption grind. And then it became, I don't know. Now there's the 4 best things that have ever happened to me. My daughter, my son, the first grind, and the redemption grind. And again, I don't know in what order the redemption grind and the first grind are in, but I do know the order of those 4 things change depending on how my kids are behaving. It was the best feeling I've ever had. And it was such a reminder of, wow, face your fears. I don't think I'll be skating naked again. I think I'm over the whole, I got my fear of being naked out on my birthday while I was skateboarding. But I will continue to skateboard and face my fears as far as that goes, because those are always fears that will present themselves. The next trick is now to get that grind, but going the opposite direction. And it's just as scary as doing it the first way I did it. That's the beauty of skateboarding. It's always challenging you. It's challenging your mental. It's challenging your physical. And I just love it. It was so interesting because I finally took myself to a movie, and I took myself to the Bob Marley movie without my children because I figured they probably wouldn't enjoy it. And there comes a time where he starts to play the Redemption song, and he is asked, "When did you write that, Bob? Like, when did you write that song?" And he said, "I've been writing this my whole life." And that was my favorite part of the movie because I thought I reflected on my redemption grind, and I thought, oh, it's absolutely right. Like, I've been working toward that redemption grind my whole life. I haven't skateboarded my whole life. I haven't skateboarded for very long. As a matter of fact, I haven't skateboarded but a year, just over a year, as far as like getting kind of into it. However, it represented so much more. It represented all the people my entire life, most importantly myself, who told me I couldn't do this, specifically skateboard naked at 50, face those fears. And I did both, and I've done both. And then to carry on. You can't learn to do anything you're 50. You can't learn to do a trick on a skateboard. Yeah, I can. You can't go back to skateboarding because you broke your wrist. Yes, I can. And I did. And I have to thank my little inspiration, the person who has shown me that skateboarding for yourself is the most rewarding thing ever. Because Sandler, my son, also the host of Special Edition, it's interesting. He knew all about redemption before I ever understood it and how it parallels life, but in the world of skateboarding. That kid has, since he started skateboarding, skated for himself. And I didn't really realize that. He loves the attention, don't get me wrong. He loves being cheered on. He loves all of that. But he's not ever going to be the competitive kid. He's not going into competitions. He literally skates for himself. And this is a kid who will smash himself 1,000 times, but he won't leave the skate park until he lands a specific trick. Yes, he wants to give up. Every bone in his body, every fiber of his insides tells him to give up, but he doesn't give up. He's very committed, and that redemption is everything. And he actually understands it. And it's interesting to me that he gets the concept. I don't know that he gets the concept. He gets that feeling, and that it has to be done. You have to redeem yourself every time you hurt yourself. You always repeat. And he's known that from the get-go, long before I understood it. So without further ado, let me introduce the host of Special Edition, Mr. Sandler Chase.
My name is Sandler Chase. I'm the host of Special Edition. And
this is episode number 50. I'm not sure if I mentioned that, Sandler.
Big one.
A big one. Why is it a big one?
Mom, did you forgotten you turned 50?
No, I remember I turned 50. That's what a lot of the episode number 50 is about. Uh-huh. It was about me turning 50. Do you remember what I did for my 50th birthday party?
Yes.
What?
You skated naked.
I did skate naked. And do you know why I skated naked?
Yeah, because you say a long time ago before you got really good, you say you want to work out every single day, get a lot of muscles.
Yeah, I did. I wanted muscles.
And then you want to get really, really good at skating. She not scared of skating naked. She did it in real life.
You are right. I did it in real life. But the one thing you aren't right about is, Sandler, I was terrified. I was completely afraid. Skating naked is very scary for me. For one, you don't know this about me, probably. And you don't really need to. I'm not real comfortable being naked, and that's not really any of your business, and you don't really need to worry about that.
Do you, from the boys, you don't want people... Sorry.
No.
Cut that out.
Well, I just feel like if I'm going to be naked, you know what? Maybe that's something. Let's not cover that part. But
Sorry.
no, you don't. There's nothing to be sorry for. Shoot, you really, you kind of threw me off with that. I'm not sure it's so much about the boys, and I'm not sure this is a conversation that you and I should have during special edition. Why I'm afraid of being naked, but it's just one of my. All right. Anywho, that's one of my fears. But one of my greatest fears was to. I think skateboarding is scary. I know you've done it, and you have very little fear. But there are certain things, certain tricks you do that originally they've got to be scary for you. Is that true or no? You're not afraid of anything?
I'm not afraid of anything.
Okay, let me ask you this, though. There's no possible way you were not afraid and you didn't face your fears. I watched you face your fears. One, you climbed stairs that got you to the top of a 13-foot vertical ramp, a vert ramp. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Just before COVID. And you put your board over... Coping. If you don't skateboard, some people might not know what coping is. But so over the edge of that vert ramp. And you looked 13 feet down. Now, I can speak from experience and say I thought it was scary to look 2 feet down from coping. You were looking 13 feet down a wooden ramp.
Yes.
That had to have been scary.
Yes, it was.
And then what did you do?
I did it.
You did do it. You faced your fears head on. Literally, you went down that ramp. Were you successful your first drop in?
No.
No. And...
But I did it again, till I landed it.
That's my point. And that's what's important to talk about, because guess what you did? You didn't give up. You kept doing it until you weren't afraid of it.
And now when I go to the wood, every time I'm not scared of it anymore.
That's right, because you faced your fears. Can you think of anything else in life where you faced your fears and it made something like...
The car accident.
The car accident. Yeah, we were in a terrible car accident.
Really bad one.
A very scary, awful event, right?
And you didn't want to. Now, when we go by it, we always say thank you very much for we got saved.
That's true. Okay, so I'll help explain that, because we were in a terrible car accident. We were T-boned at an intersection. And for a while there, do you remember one of our favorite pizza places was over there? And I would do anything and everything I could to avoid going by that intersection, because I hated driving by it because it was so scary to me.
Yeah.
And then finally, I made us drive by, and I made us drive by really slowly, remember? And we talked about it.
Yeah.
And that for me, and I think for you, and I also think for Bootsy, because all three of us were there, was a big facing our fears. And now we all just appreciate going by there. And we say thank you every single time. Do you know what redemption is?
Yes.
What is redemption?
So when you don't land a trick, or like you do a very scary trick or a hard trick, if you don't land it, you gotta do it. We do. So you gotta keep trying and don't give up.
That's very true. Why is that? Why do you redo it? Why don't you just give up? Why wouldn't you just say, that's hard, that hurt, I don't like how that feels, F this, I'm out?
Good, that mean you're a scaredy cat.
Right, and you don't want to be a scaredy cat. And are you going to be able to progress?
No, you gotta keep, don't give up.
So I think we're going to wrap this up. I think everybody needs to just keep facing their fears.
I think everybody should play Bob Marley Redemption song.
Oh, that's a good. I love that song.
Uh-huh.
That's a really good one, and I agree with you. So next episode, number 51. What do you think that should be about?
About kids and
How annoying they are?
How annoying and fun they are.
Oh, that's fair. That kind of covers the gamut.
Uh-huh.
All right, Sandler, what do we need everybody to do?
Like, follow, share.
And subscribe.
Subscribe.
Where can they find Adult Chicken?
Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And Instagram. And underscore adultchicken.com.
Adult_chicken. And actually, my personal Instagram is also linked up to that, Nikki Lynn Chase, as well as the website, adultchicken.com.